What's up guys, my name's Hugh Miller and happy February. The last video I uploaded was Q&A number 1, and 1 month later we are doing Q&A number 2. I'm really happy with the response the last one got. We got a lot of great questions that came in for the first episode and a ton of great questions for this episode. I am absolutely floored by this. And again, if you have questions you want answered for a future episode, please comment them down below, comment them on my blog, which by the way, in case you didn't know, I have kind of revamped the Nancy Drew Walkthroughs blog. It is now integrated to my website. The link is in the description and on screen. Go check it out. There's a ton of great stuff happening over there. I'll be posting updates about the website, the channel, Nancy Drew stuff, all that amazing stuff that you want to know about. It's all going to be there. Anyways, we have a ton of great questions today, and I don't want to waste too much time in the beginning here, just rambling on, so we're going to dive right in. The first question here comes from Emily, and she wants to know, which game do you think would be the best to adapt into a movie? And this is a great question, and I've thought a lot about this. I'm going to go with Curse of Blackmore Manor. And I say this because I have currently been sort of off and on writing a very short script as a bit of a prologue to Curse of Blackmore Manor. I'm not sure if I'll ever release it, but I'm very excited about it. I probably won't do anything with it. It was more just like a fan fiction, fan project. But I might release it in the future, you never know. Anyways, I am very excited about it, and I think that based on the content that we have in Blackmore Manor, it could be, if done right, it could be a really terrifying film, and I would love to see a Curse of Blackmore Manor film personally. These next two questions here come from one of my favorite content creators, Italian Gamer Joe. Please guys go check him out. He live streams Nancy Drew on Twitch. He's also a part-time game dev, and he's slowly working through some of the Nancy Drew puzzles on his Twitch channel, and he's showing you how to recreate them in a video game engine called Construct 3. I highly recommend checking it out. They're very entertaining. He's also got an amazing series, which is a parody of Midnight in Salem. You've got to go check it out. Anyways, Italian Gamer Joe, he asks, what comments/advice would you give to indie game developers that want to make their own Nancy Drew inspired content, such as Amelia Darnell or Marcella Moon, etc., etc.? That's a great question. For me, I would say look at what the Nancy Drew games do best. What do you feel they do best in the community? What do you feel they do best for you? What do you like the most? Take good notes on what those aspects are, be it story, be it characters, be it puzzles, locations, any of that stuff, and do your research. Really do your research on why they work, and explore not only other games, other Nancy Drew games, but other games outside of Nancy Drew, because most likely there's going to be other game devs and other video games that have just done what Nancy Drew has done, but even better. So I would say just fine-tune what you like about these games, and then take that and just start prototyping. Prototype to death of anything. If you're working on puzzles, just build a bunch of puzzles, build the same puzzle 50 different ways, just get to know it inside out, and you will learn so much. You'll have a lot of fun. And in the case of Amelia Darnell, for instance, I can't speak to Marcella Moon too much because I am not overly familiar with the developer or how she makes her games. Being on the Amelia Darnell team, I can tell you that we have really studied how the Nancy Drew games have been made, how they work, and from the art side of things, we're really honing into what made the Nancy Drew game so special, and we are trying to fill the game up with content and puzzles and locations that are really rich, just like the Nancy Drew games were, throwing in Easter eggs left and right as usual, and it's just, yeah, it's really just figuring out those details for sure. Next question from Joe says, which Nancy Drew game do you think deserves a sequel? Follow-up, which Nancy Drew character do you think deserves a comeback? That is a fantastic question. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if there's a game that I think deserves a sequel so much as I think deserves a prequel. I know we see some flashbacks in The Silent Spy to Nancy's past when we see Kate Drew go off to Scotland and all that. I actually would love to see a Nancy Drew game that is not Nancy Drew, but Kate Drew and her fight against the colony operation. I think that could be so cool, because we get, a bunch of like little snippets and pieces throughout the game that really have to tie in with the actual game itself. But I think stepping into Kate's shoes, and she's this super high-tech spy, and then really working on, like, I would almost say a mature rated game, I think that could be just so cool. I would love to see that. And regarding which Nancy Drew character do I think deserves a comeback? Ooh. Well, if I'm looking past the fact that I obviously want, you know, the recurring characters such as Bess and George and Frank and Joe and Deirdre, I want all of them to come back, obviously. But if we're looking at a character from a past game that is not recurring, I actually am going to choose someone, this is just off the top of my head, that might surprise a lot of people, and that's Dagny Silva, because I think she's such a mysterious character, and she was such a mysterious character in Sea of Darkness, with a very locked up past. I would love to see her come back and, you know, either be just a contact for Nancy, like a phone contact, or another, you know, physical appearance, just to see a little bit more of her, because I've always been very intrigued by her as a character, and I just want to see more. I want to know more. All right, these next questions come from Corey, and Corey wants to know, what is your favorite style of Nancy Drew game? International travel, local investigations, historical-driven mysteries, or science-focused ones? That's a great question. International travel, I think, for me, because as much as I love the States, I think the outside world, I guess, there is so much to explore, so many amazing places, and I think I would love to see Nancy return to such places as like Japan or England, because we saw a very small corner of those worlds, but I would love to see even more fleshed out. I think it would be just beautiful for that. And then between historical driven mysteries and science focused ones, I personally would say science. I love tech, I love science, I love all that stuff. And for me, The Deadly Device is like one of my favorite Nancy Drew games ever. It's just awesome. I love the music. I love the location. Everything about it is just, I just love it. So I would probably say science-focused ones. It depends on, you know, for historical-driven mysteries, it depends on the subject matter, but I'll still take it. Next question here is basically, what is your opinion of Ned? And for me, I think that it's a really tough one, because, you know, I've listened to a lot of people's opinions on it, and I've kind of, you know, formed my own opinions, and I'm not the biggest fan of always talking to Ned. I love the voice of Ned. Scott Carty did an amazing job, but I think I have to agree with Kalina Herman when she says, and Kalina, by the way, worked for Her Interactive, in case you guys didn't know by any chance, and she says that she doesn't believe that the writers gave Ned the treatment that he deserves, and it makes sense, because in the earlier books, he was there all the time. He was in person with Nancy, solving the crimes, right? And in the games, he's always back in River Heights or wherever he's going to school. And, you know, that clearly gets voiced by his character several times.
So what? I'll just hang out at home being bored? Nancy Drew, international sleuth, gets to go out adventuring, while Ned stays at home. Again.
And it's, yeah, I don't know. I think that he deserved better, for sure. And I think that's why people don't like him as much, because what Her Interactive gave us for Ned wasn't quite who Ned was as a character in the much earlier titles, the book titles. So I hope that kind of answers the question. If you could only play one Nancy Drew game for life, which one would you pick? Now, that is a tough one. I would probably say either my favorite one, Last Ring to Blue Moon Canyon, or The Deadly Device, because I feel like The Deadly Device is such a polished game, and it's beautiful in like every way. Visually, it's just stunning. And The Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon is just a classic. I grew up with that one, and I've always loved it. I've loved the characters, I love the setting, the music, the puzzles, everything about it I've loved. So I would say either one of those. I'm not sure if I can choose just one, but yeah, either one for sure. All right, and Corey's final question is, what are your thoughts on and memories of Lonnie as the voice of Nancy? In my eyes, Lonnie has always been Nancy Drew to me, and regardless of the fact that she sounds a little bit too old to be a teenager, it's just the character in her voice that she brings to Nancy that, to me, is just like, it's so distinct, and it's so hard to replace that enthusiasm she had, that kind of charisma. You know, Brittany Cox did a great job as Nancy, but we've only had one game from her. We don't know what else she can do with Nancy. We don't know how far she can go emotionally, and I think that I need another game to get a better idea for Brittany's voice. But Lonnie, to me, we've had over 30 games of her, you know, so it was just like that constant, you know, like every time you opened up a new game, you always knew Nancy was going to be there. You knew what to expect, and it was just that kind of safety net, like, okay, this is gonna be fun, let's start, you know? So yeah, that's probably my answer to that one. All right, next question comes from Salado, or Salad, my man Salad, and he wants to know, how long does it typically take to put together, render, and upload soundtrack videos, and do you get copyright claims on them? If so, does that bother you? Depends on the video. I mean, you know, there are some tracks or some soundtracks where, like Warnings That Waver the Academy, for example, has all these cello pieces by Bach, and I honestly can't remember who else. But because someone owns those rights, apparently, those videos tend to get copyright claims on them. I don't get bothered by that. It's just, it is what it is. It doesn't affect the channel. It just means that, you know, I can't monetize it. I don't really care. But if we're talking like these really big music mixes, like the study mix or the winter mix or the scary mix, like those ones, those take a little bit longer, because for me, I listen to every single music track and I decide, is this one pleasant to have in the background while you're studying? Is this one scary enough? Is this one snowy enough? You know, so on and so forth. And so I just write them up into lists, and I've got a couple lists of like really long soundtrack listings with each track that I want to include, and then I go into Premiere, which is the editing software I use. I bring in all the music tracks, I make some art for the video, and then I export it, and then I upload it. The longest part of this entire process is probably writing down the timestamps for when each track starts, and the name of each track, and which game each track is from. That probably took the longest, at least for the study mix. But yeah, that's, so in total, usually a couple days. If it's a longer one, if it's a shorter one, maybe I can get that done in a day. But yeah, that's really about it. Alright, these next few questions come from D. Lynn, and D says, I'm a behind-the-scenes junkie. I search any tidbits of info constantly. I remember Robert Riedel saying that in Statement for Danger, the typewriter drops its Y's was a subtle reference or inspired by, or taken directly from the Brady Bunch episode titled Lost Locket, Found Locket. Do you know of any other direct references in the games to any pop culture, movies, TV shows, characters, locations, etc.? Absolutely. There are tons, like all over the place, especially in the earlier games. You've just got to find them. If you listen to or watch the interview I did with Robert Riedel sometime last year, before I played Stay Tuned for Danger with him, we talk about a lot of different references that are made in the games. For instance, Curse of Blackmore Manor, the opening of that game, was kind of made to feel like the movie Die Monster Die, which is an old 60s movie, I think. And if you watch the opening scene of that film, this guy comes to town to investigate this mansion, and you know, every time he mentions the mansion, people are just like, ooh, I don't know why you'd ever want to go there, and they're laughing at him and, you know, calling him crazy for wanting to go there. And you know, the beginning of Curse of Blackmore Manor is Nancy gets out of the cab, and the cab driver says, "Good night, miss, and good luck." You know, just like it's the most haunting thing as you approach this dark, spooky manor in the middle of night, and it's pitch black outside. And so that's one. And then in Secrets Can Kill, there was a little thing that Daryl does in the opening cutscene of the game. You got to look very closely for it, but he pulls on his ear, which is a little nod to Carol Burnett. They have Vandelay Pharmaceuticals in Secrets Can Kill, which is a reference to Seinfeld.
What Delay Industries?
No! Vandelay! Say Vandelay!
Now you're way off. Well, yeah, that's the right number, but this is an apartment.
No,
What?
say
Vandelay! Say Yeah, no problem.
In Danger by Design, in Danger on Deception Island, Katie Firestone's boat is called the Orchestra, I think, and it's a pun of orca and orchestra, but it's also a reference to Jaws. And in Jaws, the famous boat that is used is called the Orca. And if you go up to Curse of Blackmore Manor, most of the lines that Lulu says are just references to old films. Like when she says,
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
like that's a reference to Jaws right there.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
And so yeah, they're really hidden all over the place. I'm not privy to all of them, obviously, but there are a ton, and you just gotta look for them. And once you find them, you're like, oh, that's really cool, you know? Our next question is, do you have plans to play any games alongside past Her Interactive staff? I have hopes of doing it. I would love to bring Robert back onto the channel again. It'd be awesome, but I know how busy he is, and I don't want to pester him. But I'd also really love to have Kalina Herman from Story Retold on. It'd be just great to play through one of the games with her, as she was there for the development of the latter 10 or 12 games or so. But yeah, it'd just be great. That's my hope. As of, like, I've reached out to other artists and whatnot, and unfortunately some have just either not got back to me or have got back to me and said they can't talk about things due to NDAs, so that's fair enough. But yeah, I have hopes more than I have plans, but you never know, anything can happen. All right, and D's next question is, how did you become a game tester? This is a great question. For those of you guys that don't know, back in 2014, I got the very rare and incredibly exciting opportunity to beta test Nancy Drew number 30, The Shattered Medallion, and it was a joy. Actually, come to think of it, it was on Valentine's Day in 2014, which is, it's today, it's Valentine's Day. Wow. Yeah, I actually got to beta test the Shattered Medallion. And so the way that it worked was that, and you can do this now still, you have to just simply go onto Her Interactive's website, you register your game, any of your games, and by doing that, you are automatically put into their system. And when you're put into their system, then when the time comes for them to beta test a Nancy Drew game, then they go through their system, and I think they just randomly choose people that's in their system, and maybe with the right computer specs, to beta test their games. And it's, yeah, again, it was completely random, and when it happened to me, I got an email saying, you've been randomly selected, and we want you, if you're interested, to beta test our new game. And I'm just like, oh, that was sweet, let's do it. And so they're like, great, so we'll email you in like 2 weeks time or 3 weeks time when the beta is available. And so they sent out a link to a website, and it was a very private part of their website. When I say private, I mean it was literally www.herinteractive.com/beta. That was it. And you can go to that website now, and there's nothing there. It just takes you to the More Nancy Drew page, so there's not much. Anyways, we got there, and from my memory, there was just like a bit of a intro to it, and then a link where you could just download the installer. And so you download the installer, you install the game, and you play the beta. And the beta was unfinished, and there was like missing art, there was missing voice lines, there was some art and voice lines that were in the beta that were never in the final game, so on and so forth. Puzzle art was different. And that's just kind of how it ran. And I apparently am still not allowed to show some stuff. I'm hoping that one day I will. And yeah, so that's the gist of it. All right, and D's final question is, I would love to hear an in-depth look at your first experience with playing a game. What were you amazed by, what you loved and didn't like, puzzles that stumped you, your thoughts on the music, environment, and characters, plus the whole game itself with the plot, ending, and culprit. How did you acquire or choose your first game, second game? Did your family or friends play and share your love and enthusiasm? Now, there's a lot of great questions in here. My first game I ever played was Stay Tuned for Danger, and the first game I ever beat was the final scene. I talk a little bit more about Stay Tuned for Danger in my previous Q&A video, which you can go check out. But I didn't really talk about my experience playing the final scene for the first time, because at the time when I played it, I think it was 2000 and... oh, I don't even know what year it was. Anyways, all I remember is I had a lot of trouble with the key making puzzle, and I remember being super excited that I discovered how to use the magic wand on the piece of gum, and then you can grab the gear and do that puzzle, I guess, the gear puzzle. I remember how to like discovering how to open up the safe with the gear puzzle, but without any hints. And it was just, yeah, I remember a lot of stuff about that game, and it was very exciting for me because, I was probably, when I solved it, I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was just super excited about it all. But I got memories from playing several of the games for the first time. I remember with Legend of the Crystal Skull, for example, I remember that game coming out very clearly because my friend who introduced me to the Nancy Drew games, she said that it wasn't a game coming out for the PC. She said it was coming out for the DS, and I was just like, I don't think so. Sure enough, I went to EB Games, or GameStop, I guess it's called now, and they had Legend of the Crystal Skull on for sale, and so I bought it, and I just said, you'll never believe what I just bought. And yeah, I remember playing it, and I remember being terrified at the fact that in the opening cutscene, when you see the skeleton man, I always assumed that he was in that room, and I was petrified that he would see me. And so I would always click right past that room as fast as I could, because I did not want to go anywhere near it. I felt safe as soon as I got on the stairs to go upstairs, but I could not. I was petrified of it. And yeah, it was just great. To answer the question about how did you acquire or choose your first game, I didn't really choose it or acquire it per se. It was more that I went over to a friend's house, and my friend was playing Stay Tuned for Danger, and I was super young. Like, I think I started playing in 2005 when I was like 4 years old. And I said, what's this? And she said, oh, it's Nancy Drew. And I was like, okay, cool. And I watched her play it a bit, and on the inside, I was super excited. I don't know what was going on, but it looked amazing. I said, can I play? And she said, not right now. Because, you know, as when a little kid asks you to play, you know, a game on your PC, it's just, usually you want to say no, because you just don't want to be doing that right now. And so I don't blame her. But at the time I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it. And then she gave me my first like 5 or so Nancy Drew games, and it was just awesome. I think I got like 1, 3, 4, 5, and 8, and that was my first foray into the games. I just dove right in, and I absolutely loved it. It was just amazing. And to wrap this question up about do my family or friends play and share my love and enthusiasm, most of my friends that love these games I've met online. There's only, you know, very, very few people in real life that I've met that love the games as much as I do. But yeah, my sister enjoys them. She doesn't really play them as often, but I know she enjoys them. But, you know, regarding people that I've met in real life that actually know of the games or play them or enjoy them, it's very few. Like, very, very, very few people that I have met in person actually know what the games are or played them. And, yeah. Alright, this next question comes from Wesley Allworth, and they want to know, what Nancy Drew game location would you most want to be able to see in real life? Now, if we're talking like that, every single location, like the mansion from Haunted Mansion or the Royal Palladium from the final scene, if all these locations that Her Interactive made up actually existed as they look in-game in real life, I'm not gonna lie, I would probably choose the Technology of Tomorrow Today Science Lab from the Deadly Device. I love the way Her Interactive made that look. It's one of my favorite locations of all, probably my favorite location of the entire series. I think it's beautiful, incredibly well modeled. The structures and the colors, everything is just stunning. I think it'd probably be that one. Next question comes from Kari, and Kari wants to know, can someone possibly twist Her's arm and get them to admit if they really have another game coming out or not? Best of luck. You can twist their arm all you want. They're not gonna say anything. All I know is that they keep saying they've got a game in the process or in the works, and it may or may not be related to the Mystery of the Seven Keys, and that's it. Everything that I know, I've made a video on, and everything that I know is what everyone else knows. So hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. This next question comes from a good friend of mine, Chaz versus Jazz. And by the way, you guys should go check out her channel. She just made an amazing video on a very cool real-life Nancy Drew prop that she ordered, and you just got to go check it out. Link for that is in the description. Chaz wants to know, what Nancy Drew character, dead or alive, do you relate to the most? Another great question. Honestly, for a while, I think I said Mason from the Deadly Device, but I think it would probably be Frank Hardy. I think Frank, because Frank's rather outgoing, he's rather smart. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or anything, but he just kind of knows what to do in a bad situation, and I like to think that I do that as well. It's really hard for me to sort of judge myself based on that, but I would probably say Frank Hardy. Alright, the next question comes from Tina Balducci. The Tina Balducci. And they're asking, I know that you dabble in game development. Would you ever consider working in the industry? And yes, I have considered it, and I have looked into it, and honestly, based on various stories, there are some parts where I'm just like, ooh, I don't know if I want to, but then other times, like when working on Amelia Darnell, I'm like, dude, I could do this all day. I love it. I love making art for games. I love making games. So maybe one day. We'll see what's in the cards. And bonus question. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, Tino Balducci?
Please. Total quack.
Alright, these last 16 questions, I'm going to just rapid fire them here, come from my good friend Alyssa Snow. And Alyssa's asking, I'm just gonna read the question and give like a very simple answer. Which game was your favorite to stream on Twitch, to do a walkthrough for on YouTube? On Twitch, probably Shadow at the Water's Edge. Walkthrough-wise, probably Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon. What's your least favorite Nancy Drew soundtrack? Midnight in Salem. In honor of Valentine's Day, do you like Ned or Frank better, and why is both the correct answer? Frank. Who is your Valentine and why is it Shorty? I think my Valentine's probably Dirk Valentine, actually, come to think of it. What's your favorite season? LOL. Fall. Would you still want to visit the old Her offices someday? Yes, and I have plans to do so. I just need to make time, and I need a way to get down to the States. Do you have a favorite Nancy Drew character and a least favorite? Favorite, Alexei Markovic. Least favorite, Guadalupe Camillo. Who's your favorite phone character? Least favorite. Favorite is Casey Porterfield. Least favorite, probably PG Krollmeister, because I don't like the fact that we had to see this mysterious character. I wanted PG Krollmeister to be a mystery, and then we had to talk to him in Trail the Twister. Do you have a favorite meme? Yes, and it's on screen right now. Give a little love to Mid, okay? Go. I like the story of the game, and I like the direction that Her Interactive tried to go in, and I hope that they can perfect it for the next game. Are you ever going to continue the Mega Marathon 2.0 on Twitch? Not on Twitch, but I do have plans to do another Mega Marathon this year. What has been the hardest part of YouTube life over the past 6 years? Well, technically, it's actually been 7 years now, which I never made a video on it, but huge thanks to everyone who supported me for the last 7 years. I just gotta say, the hardest part about life on YouTube, honestly, it's probably been since Midnight Salem released, because there hasn't been a whole lot Her Interactive has released about the new game, or the next game, and that's really where I love making videos on the new games, and because that doesn't seem to be happening at the moment, it's really tough. So I think probably right now, because I consider myself a creative person, but I also have a very hard time coming up with ideas that I feel passionate about and I want to pursue for videos on this channel. What is your favorite month? October. Who's your favorite recurring Nancy Drew game character? Deirdre Shannon. Please play Detective Barbie? Maybe. Why is purple the best color? Because Twitch. And that about wraps it up for this video, guys. This was a long one, and if you've made it all the way through, I congratulate you tenfold. I know I said last month that I had a lot of plans for this year and that I was really hoping to do a lot more content in January and February, but I honestly was mentally in a spot that I didn't really want to be in, and I kind of just got like, this was the last thing I wanted to be thinking about was YouTube, and I'm still kind of in that spot, and I just really hate making commitments like I do, because when I made that commitment, I'm just like, I was like full of passion and excitement, and then I just kind of, it didn't go the way that I'd hoped. And so I really do want to make more content for this channel, and I really think about it all the time, and I've got a few ideas written down. I just need to do it, and I've just had this mental roadblock, and I just need to get past that. But yeah, so again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if there's questions that you want answered for the next video, for the next episode, please let me know. Put them in the comments, put them on my blog. I'll also post about it just on my channel about a week before I actually put the video out. So if you have any questions, just put them on there, and that's really about it. Again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for everything over the last 7 years, as I mentioned earlier briefly, but failed to make a video for when it actually happened, and that's about it. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of your day doing whatever it is you may be doing. Have a good one, everybody.